never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer, fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and kick off our Monday by talking about some of the happenings in the world of college football from this past Saturday. Not all the games, just most of the games that matter in some way, shape, or form. Ohio State beat Iowa by the score of 54-10. And I know in last week's video when I was previewing the games, I said that I hoped Iowa's defense would keep the game close for a while. And it was close in the first half. And Iowa actually scored a touchdown on defense in the first couple of minutes of the game. So again, their offense did absolutely nothing. They're better off just not putting one on the field. Just keep your defense on the field the whole game. Just punt the ball, and maybe eventually your defense will score some points for you because your offense isn't going to. So by the third quarter, their defense just got gassed because they were on the field the whole time, and Ohio State pulled away with it. But it was close for about the first half. And then we had Clemson defeating Syracuse by the score of 27-21. And it was actually Syracuse 21, Clemson 10 after three quarters. So Clemson scored 17 of their 27 points in the fourth quarter. They had over 450 yards of offense and only scored 27 points. And most of that was in the fourth quarter. They moved the ball down the field, throw a pick. Move the ball down the field and fumble. Move the ball again and they fumble. So Syracuse wasn't stopping Clemson. Clemson was just having way too many bad plays. And DJ had his first bad game of the year. He was bad. There's just no other way to put it except for he was bad. But I don't think you have 7 good games and 1 bad game and then lose your job because you had 1 bad game. If that's the case, every quarterback in America would lose their job because everybody has a bad game. But he was bad. But let's face the facts. Through the first 7 games of the season, his numbers were better than Trevor Lawrence's numbers through 7 games in his second season, and better than Deshaun Watson's 7 games in his second season. So let's not pretend like DJ's been bad all year long. That's false. He hasn't been. But he was bad Saturday. If Cade doesn't come in that game, they lose the game. DJ did throw 2 picks, and they were awful throws. And he fumbled on the Syracuse 5-yard line. That was at least a 10-point swing because at the Syracuse 5-yard line, you're looking at worst, a 22-yard chip shot field goal. But instead, he fumbles. Syracuse picks it up, runs it back 95 yards for a touchdown. So that's at least a 10-point swing. So Syracuse offense only scored 14 points, and they did not score at all in the second half. So Clemson's defense was great, but their offense could move the ball. They just couldn't score. So if Cade doesn't come in the game, they lose, but I don't think that means that Cade is all of a sudden the starting quarterback. Cade even told DJ this is your job. You'll get the job back against Notre Dame. So I think everybody knows it's DJ's job. He just had a bad game. It looked like his first interception and his fumble got in his head, and he spent the rest of the game trying too hard to not make any more mistakes, and it led to him making more mistakes because he did have the 2 picks and he had the fumble, but he also had another play where he was running, scrambling, and he just dropped the ball and it went up in the air and he caught it and he took a sack for like a 15-yard loss. It was a bad play. So he just had a bad game, and he was bad the whole time he played. His first pass to Davis Allen was great, and after that, he was bad. But I think he's back on the field against Notre Dame. Alabama defeats Mississippi State 30-6, and it was almost a shutout. Mississippi State scored late in the game to get a garbage touchdown, so it was Alabama from start to finish. So their defense was definitely going to show that they're not as bad all the time as they were against Tennessee last week. TCU stays undefeated by defeating Kansas State by the score of 38-28. Oregon defeats UCLA by the score of 45-30. And LSU all over Ole Miss 45-20. So with Syracuse losing and UCLA losing and Ole Miss losing, we are now down to only 6 undefeated teams. This is the quickest I can recall us ever having only 6 undefeated teams left. We usually have 6 or 7, if not 8, when November comes around, and then you see teams start losing. It's happening already this year. Oklahoma State bounces back from their loss last week to defeat Texas 41-34. I do think Oklahoma State, despite losing last week to TCU, which was not a bad loss, I do think Oklahoma State is still really, really good. And Wake Forest continues their winning ways. They defeat Boston College 43-15. Penn State all over Minnesota 45-17. Tulane continues their winning ways by defeating Memphis 38-28. And Baylor defeats Kansas 35-23. The reason why I bring that game up is because Kansas started out 5-0, and they were actually ranked, and everybody got so excited about their hot start, and they have not won a game since then, and they may not win a game the rest of the year. Duke defeats Miami, and it wasn't close, 45-21, and the only reason I bring that game up is because before the season started, I tried to warn everybody that Miami's not back. They're nowhere close to being back, but even I thought they'd be better than this. I thought they'd be a 7-win team, maybe an 8-win team. I'm not sure. Looking at their schedule, they get to 6 wins. They have just been bad all the way around. There's no other way to say it except for they've been bad. Offense has been average at best. Defense has been average at best. Their quarterback that everybody was so high on has been average at best. Actually been benched a couple times this year. But I warned everybody that Mario Cristobal can recruit. And he talks a big game. But on game day, the man can't coach. And Texas Tech all over West Virginia, 48-10. You're starting to hear more and more grumblings that West Virginia head coach Neil Brown might be on the way out. I still think it's too soon. I know they haven't made any progress since he's been there, but they gave Dana Holgorsen way more time than they've given Neil Brown. And I think Neil Brown's a better coach than Dana Holgorsen. And then we had Stanford defeating Arizona State by the score of 15-14. I made fun of Stanford for being awful and just getting worse every year. They must have heard me because they've now won 2 straight games. And then we had South Carolina defeating Texas A&M 30-24. Speaking of teams that I warned about before the season, I said Texas A&M is not any good. Texas A&M won't be any good as long as Jimbo Fisher's their head coach. I don't care about their 14 quarterbacks. I don't care about those recruits. If Jimbo Fisher's your head coach, You're not winning. And now there's grumblings going around that Jimbo Fisher might be on thin ice. Why it's taking everybody this long to see the man can't coach, I have no idea. But he runs the most prehistoric offense in the history of mankind, which is why he's played 9 quarterbacks and they continue to suck. Because with the offense he chooses to run, they're going to suck. It's not the quarterbacks, it's the system. And then we had Missouri defeating Vanderbilt by the score of 17-14. And that game is relevant because just like Kansas, except for Kansas got off to a 5-0 start, Vanderbilt got off to a 3-0 start. And I told everybody they probably won't win a game the rest of the year. And sure enough, they ain't won a game since then. So they've gone from 3-0 to below 500 on the season, and they probably won't win another game. They're not any good. And when you lose to Missouri, it's obvious you're not any good because Missouri is not any good either. So we have supposed rumors about Neil Brown being on the hot seat, supposed rumors about Jimbo Fisher being on the hot seat. Are they relevant or is it just rumors? I guess we'll find out in due time. I would not at all be surprised to see Neil Brown lose his job because I think the Mountaineers are getting impatient because they gave Dana Holgorsen all that time and he didn't go anywhere. And I think they're afraid if they give Neil Brown all that time, they're going to have another 3 or 4 years of being mediocre. But I do think Neil Brown's a better coach than Dana Holgorsen. But I would be surprised if Jimbo Fisher lost his job this year only because the buyout he has. Now, I know they make enough money to pay the buyout, but it's still absolutely a ridiculous amount. Now, he might be on the hot seat going into next season, but I'd be shocked if he got fired this season. Any thoughts on any of the games, please feel free to let me know. Of course, coming up sometime later on this week, we will talk about some of the games coming up next weekend in the world of college football, which, believe it or not, is already Halloween weekend. So we're hitting the final month of the regular season in the world of college football. Most teams have now played 8 games with 4 games to go, or 7 games with 5 games to go. Some teams have already had their bye week and some teams have not. Of course, we know Army and Navy get additional bye weeks because they play in December when everybody else has finished the regular season, so that they will be the only game on TV so that everybody in America can watch the Army-Navy game, which is a great idea. It's been that way for many, many, many years. Again, any thoughts on any of the games or Neil Brown or Jimbo Fisher, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call a sad cup of coffee? Depresso. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.